Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here and welcome to a fun bookish weekend in my life. Fun bookish themed things that I want to get done, so I figured I might as well just do it all in one video and take you guys with me. But I do have an agenda for everything that I want to get done in this video. The first thing is I want to go to Barnes & Noble. I've had so many books on my mind that I've wanted to buy, but I haven't because I didn't have any space for them. But now I have a ton of space for new books. That doesn't mean I'm going to fill all of it right now, but I am excited that I actually can buy all the books that I had my eyes on. So I have quite a few books. I have a list that I'll share with you later. Then I want to do a book haul of everything I end up buying at Barnes & Noble, but also all the books that I've accumulated in the 2 months that I wasn't really recording any videos because I hadn't talked about them with you guys yet. So I just want to show you everything I ended up getting for like Christmas, my birthday, and then just randomly picking up books here and there. Then I also kind of want to rearrange my bookshelf a little bit. I know I just posted a video organizing all of it, but I didn't have this whole section in that video, so I don't want to leave it bare. I also want to fix up my Kindle. If you guys have seen my videos, my Kindle is bad right now. The back of it, I tried to decorate it. I put stickers in, but they all just fell to the bottom and I've kind of just let it. I think end goal is I want to buy a whole new case for it. So let me know if you have any cute ones on Etsy that you recommend. I also want to make my TBR jar because I don't have mine anymore ever since I moved, and I do want to do a TBR jar picks my month TBR video. So I want to make a jar. I have a mason jar, but I want to get like a cute ribbon to tie around it and then make a few prompts. And the last thing I think I'm going to end up doing is a Notion tour. I'm not sure if I'll include this. I think I will, just because one person asked for it, and I figured I might as well give you a Notion tour. I do use Notion to track literally everything book related. I also use Goodreads though, so I always have that link down below if you want to follow me in there. I try to keep it pretty updated and I try to post reviews for each book. That's everything that I want to get done in this video. That is my agenda, and we're going to start with a Barnes & Noble trip. I'm really excited to go today. I have the day off, but it's a beautiful day today. It's like 70 degrees out. It's such perfect weather for wandering and going to Barnes & Noble and going book shopping. I do have quite a few books that I want to look for at Barnes & Noble. A few of them are brand new books that I haven't read before, and then a few of them are books that I've already read but I just want to add to my physical collection. So I made a little list, and the first book that is new that I haven't read yet is Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. It finally came out in paperback, so I definitely want to get that book. It's a book that I started but never finished, but I do feel like I'll really like it. Then there's The Unmaking of June Farrow, which I heard a lot of people talking about, saying that they really like it. I think it's like a historical fiction book. I don't really know too much about it, but I am curious about it, and the cover's pretty and people say they liked it. Then one that I definitely want to get is Talking at Night. I think it's a romance, but a lot of people really liked it. Then I have The Year of Magical Thinking. I am trying to read a few more nonfiction memoirs this year. This is one that really piqued my interest and I've been wanting to read it for a while. And the last one is The Tainted Cup. I think it's like a fantasy mystery thriller, and I've heard a lot of good things about it, but I haven't really seen any other people reading it. And then for the books that I've already read, I want Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It is the last Emily Henry book that I need to finish my collection. Then I have The Nightingale and Great Alone by Kristen Hanna. I've already read and owned these books, but I loaned them out and I never got them back, and I do want them in my collection. And then the same with The Silent Patient. I did own that book and I really liked it, and I loaned it out and I never got it back, so I want to buy it again. Then None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell. It was a mystery thriller that I really loved, so I do want to own it physically because I do think I'd want to reread that one. Those are all the books that I've already read that I want to buy, and the last book that I haven't read but I do own that I want to buy a new copy of is As Against You by Frederick Backman. It's the second book in the Beartown series. I do own it, but the first and the last book have like the same cover, and then the second one is a different cover, and I just want them all to match. And it's not like I'd be wasting it because I will give this one to my boyfriend because he's also reading the series, but I'll show pictures of what they look like so you know what I'm looking for, and I just want them all to match. But that's like very low on the priority. It is just something I've been looking for and I haven't found one that I've wanted because I'm very particular about the books that I buy. I don't like anything with any scratches on it. That is the plan, and I'm going to go to Barnes & Noble now and take you guys with me, and I'll show you guys what I end up getting at the end of it. So I'll see you then. All right, hey, it's actually Saturday. I went to Barnes & Noble yesterday and I just didn't do a haul. So it's now Saturday at 1 p.m. and actually this morning I got a library card. So we went to the library. I didn't end up getting any books, but I did put a ton of books on hold when I got home, one of which being the Hunger Games book, and just so you guys know, I'm never getting that. I'm like 1020 in line. So that's what happened this morning, but I still have the haul from Barnes & Noble and then all the books on my bookshelf that I haven't talked about yet, so we're gonna do that right now. I ended up getting 2 books from Barnes & Noble. Firstly, Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. Like I mentioned before, I did attempt to read this book, but I was kind of in a slump when I tried, and I got a little bit turned off from it because it does take place in 2020 and they do talk about COVID. And I don't really love talking about COVID and stuff like that in books. I just don't really like reading about it, but I have heard amazing things about Ann Patchett, and the story itself is pretty cute. It follows Laura and her 3 daughters, and her daughters are home living with her because of COVID, and then she starts kind of telling them stories about her past. So you learn about Laura and her like famous lovers and everything like that, and then you also follow the 3 daughters and then their romantic interests and their lives, and it's definitely like a literary fiction character development story where you just follow these characters, nothing really happens. It was kind of mundane and a little bit slow moving in the first half. It was kind of just like this family living during COVID, and I didn't love reading about that, but I do want to give it another shot, like I said. So that is why I picked up the paperback copy, because it's finally out in paperback. I will say it has those pages that I don't really love. I don't know what they're called, but they're when the paper is really rough. I don't love that. I guess this book has it. And then I ended up picking up The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. I've heard so many amazing things about this one. I think it's like a historical fiction fantasy romance. I don't really know, but it follows June and she kind of has a lot of hallucinations. She doesn't know what they're for, what they're from. Then she realizes she can walk through the hallucinations, I'm pretty sure, and go into those worlds, and she starts uncovering a lot of secrets about her life and her history growing up. I could totally be wrong about that. There's a good chance I am. The back of this is a little bit confusing, but that's what I think it is. I know she has hallucinations and she doesn't really know what they're from. So that is what The Unmaking of June Farrow is about, and I'm excited to read this one. So those are the 2 books that I picked up from Barnes & Noble. Then I have a few books that I just have on my shelf that I haven't spoke to you guys about, so I do want to talk about those. I'm just gonna go in order from top to bottom shelf. I'm not gonna go like in order of how I received them, but I'll let you know how I got them and when I got them and everything like that. So if you watched my last video that I posted, it was a what I realistically read in a week reading vlog. I showed that I went to Barnes & Noble that week with my dad, and I ended up getting 2 books. Well, he ended up getting me 2 books, and the first one was Funny Story by Emily Henry. So this is obviously a rom-com romance book. Love Emily Henry. I've already read this book, but I wanted to add it to my collection with Emily Henry. And I'm almost done. I almost have every book. I'm just waiting on Book Lovers. I just need Book Lovers, and then I'm gonna have every Emily Henry book. But I ended up picking up Funny Story because it finally came out on paperback. This book follows Daphne and Miles, and they were both engaged, I believe, and then both of their partners ended up breaking up with them and getting with each other. So then you kind of follow Daphne and Miles and how they cope with this loss, and then how they kind of rely on each other and end up bonding over this mutual loss that they dealt with together. So I did really enjoy this book, and I'm so happy to have it on paperback. So this is one of the books that I got. Then I also ended up getting The Ministry of Time by Kayleigh Bradley. I've been wanting to read this book for a really long time because I've heard so many people love it, and it's kind of like a sci-fi book. I don't often read sci-fi, but I'm trying to branch out in my genres. This book is finally out on paperback too, so you'll see a trend. I literally just wait until books are out on paperback and then I buy them. Basically, this book is about a woman who finds out that time travel can actually happen with humans. So she begins time traveling and experimenting, and she ends up falling in love, I believe, in like a place that she time travels to, and then has to deal with all of that. And I could be, once again, totally wrong. That's just what I think that this book is about, but I did end up getting this the other day, and I am very excited to read it. Then pretty recently as well, I ended up going to Barnes & Noble with my friends, and I picked up Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. I've been wanting to read this book for so long. Once again, just came out on paperback. That is the trend of this video. So this book is about 2 authors, one of whom is not really doing well in terms of selling her books and profiting off of her books. The other one is doing really well writing about Chinese laborers in World War I, and Athena is the one who's doing well. She ends up dying, I believe, in a car crash, and then the other author, June, takes her work and starts to sell it as her own. June because her work is getting received really well compared to the work that June is making herself. And so you follow as June tries to fake that this work is her own, and she ends up getting too caught up and getting found out, and you just see how it all develops. And it sounds very interesting. I've heard amazing things about this book, but I've also heard amazing things about the author, so I do want to pick up a ton of her other work if I end up liking this, even if I don't. So that is another book that I ended up picking up. And now both of these were from closer to my birthday. I went to Barnes & Noble again with my dad, and you'll see a trend here. A lot of these books my dad ended up buying me, but I went to Barnes & Noble around December, like near my birthday, and I ended up getting Hello Beautiful and The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. And actually, funny story about both these books, they were both on this table of like trending books, and a sweet old lady came up to me and she saw me looking at these and she was like, oh, please get The Frozen River. That was one of my favorite books this year. And then she also said that this one was good. So I will say that kind of influenced my decision, although both of these books were ones that I had my eye on, and this was finally out of paperback. But Hello Beautiful is kind of like a retelling of Little Women. I love Little Women, specifically the movie. I haven't really read the books yet, but this is like a retelling. So William ends up meeting Julia, and her family and all of her sisters kind of just becomes enveloped in their family and their dynamic. Such a cozy, fun read, and it is more literary fiction following this family and how they grow up and how the sisters just create different paths for themselves in life. That is what Hello Beautiful is about. I'm very excited to read this book. And The Frozen River takes place in 1789 in Maine, and it follows Martha, who's a midwife, and she basically keeps track of everyone who is birthed and dies in this little town in Maine. And she stumbles upon a body in the ice, and it ends up being one of these two respectable men in their town who are both accused of rape earlier on. And the physician declares the body is accidental, but Martha doesn't believe it is, so she ends up investigating it on her own. And that's what this book is about. Sounds super interesting, and that sweet woman really liked it, so I'm very, very excited to pick this one up. I already read the first few pages and I was really hooked, but then I don't know why I put it down. I think I was just slumping earlier on and I just wasn't really reading much, but I'm very excited to read this book very soon. Then I also got, and this is my prized possession, I have the 3 special edition Magnolia Parks books by Jessa Hastings, and I think they're beautiful. I got them for Christmas. I don't like hardcover, but I will do a special edition, especially for a book that I'm obsessed with. And look at the inside of it. Take a moment. They are actually stunning, and they include pictures that relate to the storyline. So this is the last book, Into the Dark, and it has the entire complete Magnolia Parks section of the Magnolia Parks Universe series, and I think she's gonna end up doing them with Daisy Hates too once that section is finished. So I'm so excited to finally have both of those. I think they're stunning. I love them. And if you don't know what Magnolia Parks is about, it basically just follows a bunch of London socialites and their life and drama and romantic relationships and their friendships and found family, and it is just so entertaining. It's like reality TV in a book, and you end up falling in love with the characters like Magnolia and BJ and Daisy and Christian and Julian, of course. I feel like everyone loves Julian, and I am in that boat with everyone else too. So love that series. If you haven't picked it up, I highly recommend it, but just know that it is toxic, and it's not like it's something you aspire for in life, but you just read it because it's fun, and you can sit at home and realize that's not your life. And that's what binging reality TV is for me. So I do love those books. And I'm realizing I forgot, because I actually ended up getting 3 books from Barnes & Noble, but one of them was already put back on my shelf, and that is Us Against You by Beartown, the second book in the Beartown series. I love this series so much, and I just wanted the matching covers, like I mentioned, so that it matches all the other covers in my series, because I guess he has a bunch of different covers of this, and now this is the one that I think he ended up sticking with, and I just want all my books to match. So I ended up giving my other one to my boyfriend, so it's not going to waste. He is reading this series, and he gave Beartown 5 stars too and wrote a kind of funny review, so I'll put it here in case anyone else thinks it's funny. But then on my actual birthday, I also went to a bunch of different Chicago bookstores with my boyfriend. He like took me to a ton of them, and I wanted to get 1 book from every store, but I think I only ended up getting a book from 2 of the bookstores. So the first one that I got was Happy Place by Emily Henry. Once again, I've already read this book and I loved it, and I actually gave my copy to my friend, so I wanted another copy, and Sydney's currently reading it. But it basically follows Harriet and Wynne. They were engaged, but they actually called off their engagement right before their summer trip with their group of friends, so they decided to fake their engagement so that they didn't ruin this trip with their friends. But then it comes out that a lot of other stuff is going on with their friends, and there's a reason why they're kind of growing distant from each other, and it's so much more than just a romance, but it is also kind of like a rekindling of love, and I do love books like that. So I think this one is perfect for people to read in their 20s, if they've just graduated, if they have a friend group that they're kind of growing distant from, or like just dealing with friends after college when you're no longer like right next to each other all the time. I loved the different storylines in it. I loved how it involved the friends and their drama as well, and I gave this book 5 stars, so I had to own it, and I'm very glad that I do. And then at the other bookstore, I ended up picking up Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, and I can't give you a description of this book because I literally know nothing about it other than the fact that it is a fantasy book with a ton of books in the series, some of which being like 1,000 pages. So I eventually would like to read this. I read ACOTAR. I didn't even finish the last book in the series though because I just cannot get into it, but I've heard amazing things about Throne of Glass, and that's why I picked up the first book, because it is my 2025 goal to officially read this one, and I just haven't yet. So I ended up getting this on my birthday, and then on my birthday I actually ended up getting the 3 books in the Grishaverse series. If you watch my reading for 24 hours video, you know I read Shadow and Bone, so I do want to read Six of Crows. That's another one of my goals for 2025, and in order to read that, I feel like I have to finish the Grishaverse series, which comes before it. I just cannot get into it, guys. I've tried to read the second book. I can't get into it. So please, if you like this book, somehow convince me to read it because I can't get into it. I really did enjoy Shadow and Bone. Like, I thought it was really fun, but I'm just not feeling it for the next 2, but I do own them and I want to read them this year. So someone convince me. Okay, and the last book in this insanely long haul that is way more books than I kind of thought it would be is One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. I bought this book because I was hearing people say amazing things about this duology. It also has 2 Twisted Crowns, which I haven't read yet, obviously because I haven't read the first one, but I don't own that one either. I don't really know what this book is about, to be honest. I think I plan on going into it pretty blind, but I do think it is a romantasy and a duology, and people have said they really enjoyed it. My coworker is telling me to read it, so I do want to read it. And that's the last book. I ended up picking this up just randomly going to Barnes & Noble with a gift card that my dad got me for Christmas. So I guess this is also from my dad. But that is the last book in my very long haul, comprised of way too many books, more than I expected, but I'm very excited to read all of them. I feel like I have a really good collection now, and now I actually have tons of space to display it all. So talking about the displaying of my books, I do want to kind of reorganize my bookshelf so that I'm including this half a little bit more. So I'm gonna do that right now, and I'll show you guys what I end up coming up with. I don't really know what I want to do yet, other than I think I want to put like authors that I really like in there so that I can specifically display them, but then I don't think I'll have enough for each shelf. So I don't know what I'm gonna end up doing. It might look bad, but I'm gonna mess around with it. Know how I feel about this, to be honest. Please send any ideas that you have down below. I don't know what to do. I just don't think I have enough books to fill it to make it look very nice, but that's okay because I will slowly accumulate and I don't need to go buy any more right now. I have too many. But this is kind of what I came up with. I kind of left this one looking pretty similar to how it was, but I did take a few books from it and move them to different rows. I kept this one literally like the exact same. I do eventually want a section for Frederick Backman, but I knew that if I moved this, it would just look too empty. So I'm keeping it there temporarily. And down here, I kind of made it so it's like literary fiction that has a hint of romance or romance books. And then up here is just more like literary fiction books that are more like character studies. And then here's my Kristen Hanna section, which I do eventually want a Kristen Hanna section there, but I can't separate my authors like that completely because it will be too empty. Then down here I kept as the fantasy row. In the bottom row I kept pretty much the same, like the mystery thrillers, the historical fiction, and those random like holiday themed books. Here I have Emily Henry, Magnolia Parks, and Sarah J Maas. So that's kind of how I divided it. I don't really know how I feel about it, but I'm gonna keep it this way for now just because I can't be bothered. But let me know if you have any thoughts or anything that you want to change about it or think would make it look better. I do still think I need decor, which I don't have any of that yet. So this is what we're working with for now. So that's it for right now. I will catch up with you guys when I do something else, like potentially my TBR jar, showing you guys my Notion. Okay, so now I'm gonna do a Notion tour. I have had a few people asking for one, and I do love using my Notion. I think it's pretty extensive in terms of a Notion, so yours doesn't have to be as crazy as mine, but I did figure I would just show you guys what I use to track all of my books and everything on my Notion. I don't really know how to make this Notion shareable so that you guys could also use it, but if it's something that you're interested in, let me know and I can try to figure it out. But I also do have my 25 books for 2025 on my Notion, and I figured I might as well go through it with you guys and talk through all my books that I want to read this year, because I think it might be fun, and let me know what you guys think, to do a reading vlog series of trying to read those 25 books this year. So I do have my laptop with me, so let's get started with the Notion tour. Okay, so this is my bookshelf. It's where I track literally everything on my Notion. I have a few little pictures there that I think are kind of cute. Then I have the book that I'm currently reading right here. So I'm currently reading Sunrise on the Reaping. So I know I mentioned that I'm 1020th in line at the library. I ended up just getting the ebook, and that's what I'm reading because I'm not waiting like 2 years to read this book, and I'm really enjoying it. But basically when I have a book like this, I can mark whether I'm currently reading it, want to read it, have read it. I can attach the author to it. I add the release date, the genre, the cover, and then the total pages in the book. And then when I'm currently reading it, I can add what page I'm on, and then that changes this little progress bar down there. So I'm about 56% through the book. I have all of my favorite books down here. So obviously love Beartown, Britt Murray was here, Carrie Soto is back. I'm sure you've heard me talk about all of these books, and see I have here the date that I read it, the date that I reread it, and I just kind of keep track of everything there. Then here I have some of my favorite quotes. I can click which ones I want to add. Currently I just have one from Beartown that I really love. And here's my 2025 reading challenge. Let's not talk about how many books I've read because I was moving and I'm getting back into it, but this is where I track everything. And then I have a little stay current page where it just talks about what I'm reading, how many books I've read this year, any bookshelf updates. And here is my little menu to click to different sections. So from here, I usually will go to the library, and this is where I store all of my books. So once again, I have the currently reading book, I have the stay current, and then here's like a quick capture to add a new book to my library if I want to. And here is my library. This is my monthly TBR. I don't have any monthly TBR yet. I am still considering doing an April TBR jar video, so if you guys are interested in that, let me know. And that is what I would put in this little section. Then I have all the books on my TBR that I haven't read yet, and it is a lot. I just add every book that I think sounds remotely interesting, and I don't often remove books. So as you can see by all of the Binding 13 books that I don't think I'm ever gonna read, but that's what that is. Then these are all the books that I've read, and I have the little rating down there and the date that I read them. I don't often write anything in here, but I could add a few things in there. I do love to add quotes though if I'm really liking quotes in the book. So as you can see in Beartown, I have a ton of quotes saved there, which do pull over to my quotes tab, which I'll show you guys later. Here is my upcoming releases, so just any book that hasn't been released yet, and it automatically categorizes based on the release date that I add in there. Here's my 25 for 2025, which we will touch on at the end because I want to go through those in more detail. And then here's just every book, and then my physical library. So that's my little library section. And then here's my series tracker. So these are series that I want to read, but I haven't started yet. And then a series that I'm currently in the middle of, and it says the percentage of how much longer I have in that series. Then these are series that I've finished, but more books are gonna come out. And then these are series that I finished, and I add the little rating for them. And then these are ones that I didn't finish and likely will not finish. And I don't know why. There's a little walking person there, but they're gone now. Then I go back up here, and this is the same menu that you see at the bookshelf section, like at the very first page. So then I'll just click on authors. This just brings me to a page where I have every author, and I have them organized basically by the amount of books I've read of them. And then I just put my little favorite authors up there. Then I have the same thing to quickly add an author, and then my stay current section. Then the quotes page is basically the same thing. Like I have my favorite quotes, which you saw pulls over to the front page. And then here's just my quote library of so many different quotes from books that I loved. And the last thing on here is my yearly challenge section. So this is where I can quickly add a new yearly challenge. I have my stay current section, and then here is the yearly challenge for 2025. So I've read 4 out of 50 books, 2,000 pages. I've discovered one favorite book. So basically if I discover a 5-star book, that would change to 2 favorite books, or you haven't discovered a favorite book yet. And I am 8% through my goal. So I have quite a bit of reading to do if I want to hit that goal. And then I just have my upcoming challenges. I usually put like the next year, and then it'll put set your reading goal for the year if I haven't done that yet. Then I have all my past reading challenges, and as you can see, I've been using this Notion since 2021, so a very long time, and it automatically says all these different things. Basically, it's like how I coded it. If I meet my reading goal, it says reading goal met, and then it'll say 2 favorite books discovered, I surpassed it with 100%, everything like that. If I surpassed my reading goal, it'll say reading goal surpassed, and if I didn't meet it, it'll say reading goal not met, and it just keeps track of all my past reading goals. And if I click on it, it'll show me all the books that I read that year, what I rated them, when I read them, everything like that. And then the last thing that I have on here is this little statistics thing where I keep track of the genres that I read. So I read 2 literary fiction, 1 romantasy, and 1 romance book in 2025 so far, and that is basically my entire Notion. So now I'm just gonna go through my 25 for 2025. So the first book is 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I've talked about this book before. It's like a fantasy heist book that I really want to get to because my friend says that it's the best book ever. It's young adult, and you have to finish this trilogy called the Grishaverse before you can get to this. So I'm currently on the 2nd book in that trilogy. For some reason, I just cannot get into it, but I really want to read 6 of Crows this year. It's one of my goals, so it's on my 25 for 2025. Then I have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I'm trying to read more out of my typical genres, and that is sci-fi. I don't often gravitate towards sci-fi. All I know is that this book is about a man who goes to space and realizes that all his crewmates are dead, and he doesn't know how, and he doesn't know how long he's been asleep for because he wakes up and they're just all dead, and so he has to kind of figure out why he's in space and how to get out of there. It sounds kind of scary. I'm not gonna lie, my coworker is reading this right now and she's not really liking it, so it's making me a little bit hesitant to pick it up, but I know people love this book, so that is on my 25 for 2025. And then in the same genre, I have The Ministry of Time by Kayleen Bradley, which you saw in my haul because I did just pick this book up physically. It's another sci-fi book, and I do want to read it because I think it's more of like a sci-fi romance. Maybe it'd be a better introduction to the genre, but I think it's about a girl who can time travel and then ends up falling in love while time traveling and has to kind of deal with that. Then I have Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I don't know really anything about this book. Like I said, I also just picked this book up physically, but I want to read it because everyone loves this series and so many people highly recommend it. And I did like ACOTAR. I don't think I loved ACOTAR, but I did have a lot of fun reading it, and apparently some people think that this series is even better. It's just very long, and I have trouble committing to very long series because then I feel like I really have to finish that series before reading anything else. Then I have Talking at Night by Claire Daverly. I don't really know too much about this one either, but I do know that it's a romance, and people say that it's really good. It was pretty trendy earlier on. I do really want to read it. I just don't know too much about it, to be honest. Then I had Binding 13, which I actually did read. I wanted to give this series a shot because so many people love it, and I just realized it's not for me. If you want any more detailed thoughts about that book, I did end up reading it in a reading vlog, so I'll link that down below if you want to watch that and get my more in-depth while I'm reading thoughts on the book. But it just wasn't really for me. It's like a romance about high school kids, and it's like found family, very long, lots of trauma in it, and I just think it was a very slow moving book. Then obviously we have Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I think this is on literally everyone's 24 for or 25 for 2025. Like I think everyone wants to read this book. It's about 2 authors that are competing to write a story about this one famous woman because they know that the story is going to do really well, and they both think it would be a game changer for their career. So I think it's like an enemies to lovers, workplace rivals kind of book, but Emily Henry always adds something a little bit different into them to make them more than romance, which is why I love them so much. So very, very excited for that one. Then I have Conditions of Will by Jessa Hastings. I don't really know too much about this book, but I do love the Magnolia Park series, and I didn't realize Jessa Hastings was even coming out with a new book. I never read Never, but that never really appealed to me. To be honest, I'm not one for like retellings, and I think that was a Peter Pan retelling. I'm excited to read it. I actually did just pick it up physically yesterday after I filmed the video, so you guys didn't even see that, but I do own it now, and I'm very excited to read it. I think I might read it next after I finish the Hunger Games book. Then I have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. You also saw that I picked this book up physically, but it's about 2 authors. One of the authors dies, and the other author steals her work and tries to present it as her own, but ends up getting caught and kind of has to keep faking that this is her work, and you see how it evolves. Then I have The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brammer. I think this is a book about grief, to be honest, about someone who died and then the regrets that she had in life. But I'm not too sure about that one. It just was one that appealed to me when I made this list, so that's why it's on my 25 for 2025. Honestly, some of these were more intentional choices, and then some of them were just like, well, they sound interesting and maybe I'll want to read them. But then I have My Friends by Frederick Backman, which I'm so excited for this book. It's not out yet, but it's about a man who's a painter, and he painted his 3 best friends sitting on a ledge one day, and then 20 years later a woman sees it and she just feels very motivated and moved by this image. So she tries to hunt down the painter and kind of uncover why he painted these friends and what the purpose of this painting was. Seems like it's going to be heartwarming like all of his books. Then there's The Favors by Lane Fargo, which I also already read. This was a figure skater drama romance, and it was so good. I loved the drama, I loved the intensity, the characters, you hate them all at one point, but it's just such a fun read. Like, highly recommend it. It kind of reminds me of like Magnolia Parks with Carrie Soto is Back mixed together, and love those books, both of them. It's like the drama of Magnolia Parks with like the friend group that's all so intertwined, and then the sports of Carrie Soto is Back. Then speaking of Taylor Jenkins Reid, I have Atmosphere. This is her new book, kind of like a romance, I'm pretty sure. I think it's called Atmosphere, a love story on Goodreads. Don't know too much about that, but I will read anything Taylor Jenkins Reid writes. I do love her writing. Then I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, which is a book about grief between 3 brothers, I believe. I don't know too much about it, but I do love Sally Rooney. I just think that this book sounds very emotionally heavy, so I haven't picked it up. Then I have The Wedding People by Alison Espach. If you know, I've spoke about this book so many times and I still haven't read it, which is kind of insane for how much I've talked about it. It's about a woman who ends up going to, I believe, Rhode Island to stay at a hotel that she really wanted to stay at with her husband, but they're no longer together, and she ends up crashing a wedding, basically. Like, she's the only guest at this hotel that's not there for this wedding, and then she ends up meeting the bride and interacting with her. Then I have Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I will read anything he writes, but I've been wanting to read this book for so long. It's about a bank robbery, and then it just follows, I believe, like the one day or the 2 days of this bank robbery and the people who are held hostage in there and their different perspectives, what they have going on in life, how they're coping with this, everything like that. He does such an amazing job about writing about different people. Then there's Tom Lake by Ann Patchett. I spoke about this one earlier too because I also just bought it physically, but it's the book about the sisters going back home because of COVID and kind of like their family, hearing their mom's old stories about her celebrity crushes and everything like that. So just more of a literary fiction, fellow kids growing up. Then I have Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt, and this is another book that I've been wanting to read forever. I know it comes out paperback in June, I believe, so I'm definitely going to be picking it up then. But it follows a woman who, I believe her son went missing and her husband recently died, so she's feeling very alone. She goes to the aquarium, she sees an octopus, and I think the octopus talks to her and helps her kind of uncover what happened to her son who went missing. It's supposed to be very heartwarming. It had very, very good reviews. I think it came out last year and people loved it, so I'm very excited to read that book. Then I have Us Against You by Frederick Backman, so the second book in the Beartown series. I just want to finish the Beartown series this year. That's one of my goals. Then we have The Frozen River by Ariel Lahan. This is another book that I already kind of spoke about and talked about, but it's about the midwife who ends up seeing someone who's dead, and they say that it's an accident, but she doesn't think it is, so she starts investigating what happened to him. Then I have The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett. I think this is like a dark academia fantasy book. I don't know too much about this one or The Will of the Many by James Islington, but I have heard good things about both of them. I think they're both kind of like mystery fantasy books, and I can't tell you much about them, but I definitely want to read them. Then The Unmaking of June Farrow, which I also spoke about recently. It's like a girl who has visions and she starts to realize she can enter the visions. Once again, could totally be making that up. Then there's The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, and this follows Amina, who's a pirate, and she's about to retire and no longer do any of those adventures anymore, but someone comes up to her and says that their daughter has been lost and she wants them to help find her. So she goes on this one last adventure because they're offering really good pay that would set her and her family up for life, but it ends up being more than she bargained for, and that's more of like a 100% fantasy book, like no romance in it. So I was very intrigued about it and I'm excited to read that this year. Then I have Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, which I'm actually reading right now, so I'm definitely going to get to that book. And for those who follow the Hunger Games, this book follows Haymitch's storyline, and I love Haymitch. I feel like everyone loves Haymitch, so this has been a long-awaited book, and I'm really enjoying it. It's so much fun. I heard someone say that this is the closest you're gonna get to rereading the Hunger Games, and I do feel that. Like, it does feel like I'm rereading The Hunger Games, whereas The Ballad of the Songbirds and Snakes kind of felt like a different take on The Hunger Games because you were getting President Snow's perspective. This feels more like a typical, like you're reading The Hunger Games all over again. So I'm really having so much fun reading it and highly recommend it if anyone is wanting to read it. So that is my Notion, and those are my 25 books for 2025. Let me know what you guys think about it. I'm glad that I was able to finally share it with you guys. I do love using it. Clearly I've used it for years at this point and it doesn't need to be as complex as mine is, but I've just slowly added things throughout the years that I felt like I wanted and I needed in there to just kind of track the books to the best of my ability. I still do love using Goodreads and other things like that. I also am trying to set up a Fable, so I'll link that down below if any of you guys want to follow me on there. I think I really like the statistics that Fable gives you in comparison to Goodreads. I also like being able to do the half stars, but then there are things about Fable that I don't love as much as Goodreads, and that's why I just use Notion, because I can do everything exactly how I want it in here. That was my Notion tour, and next thing that we're gonna do is decorate my Kindle case. So this is what I came up with. I don't think I love it, to be honest, but it was all I could do right now. I ended up just keeping the clear case and sticking the stickers on here so that they weren't just all jumbled at the bottom like you know my Kindle case was before, but I still don't think I'm absolutely obsessed with it. I think I might end up just getting a new Kindle case that doesn't involve stickers at all and it's just like kind of clean looking. So if you know any Etsy shops or anything like that that sell Kindle cases, let me know and I will likely end up buying a new one, but this is the temporary fix for it, and I'm glad I ended up doing this because my Kindle did look kind of ridiculous. Now it looks more presentable in public if I end up reading and not like a bunch of stickers just falling on the floor. But that is my finished Kindle case for now. Okay, now I want to do my TBR jar. That's the last thing that we're going to be doing in this video, and I don't have an actual jar, but I do have this cute mug from Anthropologie. So I think I'm gonna end up using this, but now I just want to write a bunch of different prompts. So I don't have any in my brain, but I'm kind of just gonna go through online and look at prompts that I think sound good, write them down, and I'm not going to tell you guys every prompt that I do because I want some of them to be surprises when I end up doing a TBR jar. But I think I'm going to do stuff like a book that starts with my first initial, or a book that starts with certain letters, a book with a certain number of pages, a book with a certain color on the front of the book, a book with like an animal on the cover. So I'm going to do a ton of prompts like that. If you have any prompts for TBR jars that you think are fun, let me know them down below. But I'm just gonna put my TBR jar together, write a bunch of prompts, and I will show you guys when I'm finished. Okay, I'm finally done. This actually took so long, but here are all my prompts. I don't know how many prompts I have. I ended up filling 2 pages full of prompts. I feel like I have quite a few. I think this might be more than my last TBR jar. So now I'm just really excited to use it. But we did just finish the TBR jar. So that was the last thing that I had planned for this doing book things or bookish weekend video with me. We have done so many bookish things this weekend, but thank you guys so much for watching this video and sticking to the end. If you did comment this emoji. Thank you so much for watching and for being here, and I can't wait to hopefully see you guys in the next one. Bye.